My name is Mark Boughton. I'm Commissioner of the Department of Revenue Services, and I'm also Senior Advisor to Governor Lamont on infrastructure. And I just want to welcome everybody. This is the inaugural ConnStruct Infrastructure Summit, CT 2035. Give yourselves a round of applause for getting here this morning. That's right. And we have a lot of folks to thank for this. I'll be real quick about this. We're going to get the governor up here in a second. But we have to remember that Wednesday was the 2-year anniversary of really a historic law passed in this nation, the bipartisan infrastructure law, which was bipartisan, embraced by many, not quite all, but many, right, Senator? And something that we here in Connecticut take very seriously about implementation. You'll hear a lot about that throughout today. We have folks from the NGA. We have my counterpart from New York State is here, and from Mass will be here, and some other folks. And it's just been a transformative investment, not just in Connecticut, but the region and in the United States of America. So this is a big deal, as the president likes to say. I left out a word there. Anyways, obviously I want to thank Governor Lamont for taking time out this morning. He's going to spend some time talking a little bit about what Connecticut's going to look like in 2035 after we spend all of this great money and after we make these investments both on the state side and on the federal side. He's also brought with him some of our very successful mayors and first selectmen here in Connecticut to talk a little bit about what's the local connect there. We want this to be locally driven. My job is to go out and visit you. You don't come see me. I've been to, Steve, almost 90 to 100 towns in Connecticut looking at various infrastructure programs and projects. And there's a reason for that, because we want this program to be driven locally. I want to thank Senator Murphy for taking time out of his day. He was instrumental in helping get this transformative legislation passed. Huge believer in it, and his staff has been really just working super hard for us when we need somebody or need assistance on leveraging a grant. We have some sponsors and partners. Connecticut Water is here. So drink their water. It's really good. Love it. Love Connecticut Water. Buy more Connecticut Water. HNTB, NGA. I want to thank Tom Curtin, came all the way up. He is a former Connecticut resident as well from the National Governors Association. He'll be speaking a little bit later on. The Hartford Club, they gave us a little bit of a break on the room, and we appreciate that. And, of course, UConn at Hartford for letting us use their registration assistance. We have, as I mentioned, fellow infrastructure coordinators that are here. We've got some municipal leaders that are here with us, leaders of COGS, everybody who's sort of a stakeholder and getting our state built the way we want to look like is here. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the new mayor of the city of Danbury, my friend Roberto Alves, who's here. Roberto, thank you for coming here from Danbury. Appreciate it. Give him a round of applause. Okay, so we're going to rotate right now. We got a new video, right, Anthony? Very excited about it. And we're going to run our video. It's about Make It Here, because we want companies, citizens, and people that come to Connecticut and make their products. So let's run this video.
Dream, design, shape, repeat. That's what we do here. We're makers. It's why we came here and why we're here for good. High-tech helicopters. Country's best pizza. National championships. Artistic triumphs. Scientific breakthroughs in medicine and aerospace. This small state is one of the best places on earth to build a family, a business, a home. So let's keep dreaming, designing, shaping, and repeating. What will you make next? Connecticut. Make it here.
What a terrific job by our team in putting that video together. Notice the new logo. Very excited. You do have swag in your bag. Does not have the new logo on it because we had to order the stuff before the new logo came out. But it'll be on next year's governor, I promise. All right. So with that, I want to introduce somebody who's been absolutely pivotal in helping pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. He loves to walk across Connecticut. I don't know how he does it, but he does it every year, right? Senator, every year. And just a terrific representative. And by the way, just Fun fact, I went into the House of Representatives in the state of Connecticut with him in 1998. So proud to see how terrific he's done in his career. So Senator Murphy, please.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for your leadership in putting this really important meeting together. Governor, great to be here with you. It's been such a joy to work together with you on helping to rebuild this state and to watch the benefits of that. And great to be in a room full of political leaders, civic leaders, transportation leaders. I cannot believe it's been 2 years since this landmark piece of bipartisan legislation passed. And I'm really so excited to be here at a moment where we can talk in real terms about what it's already meant for our state, and we still know that there's enormous benefit to come. I love that video, right? Because it makes perfectly clear why we love this state, right? There are just unique assets that this state has that no other state can brag about. First and foremost, the highest trained, best producing, most productive workforce in the nation. If you want to make something complicated, if you want to do something tough, you're not going to find better workers than in Connecticut. We've got that connectivity to two of the biggest economic centers in the world, right? Just a stone's throw away from the capital necessary to form your business in New York or Boston. We have the best education system in the entire country, the best performing schools, the highest test scores. We've got quick access to the beauty of the outdoors of New England. We've got the coastline. Connecticut has it all. We just have to make sure that people can get here. We just have to make sure that in a global economy where you can't just stay in place, you can't just sell to your neighborhood, that if you come to Connecticut and choose to experience all that we have to offer, you can get your people and your stuff as quickly as you need to, not just to the rest of the region, but to the rest of the world. And so it pains me when I look at what other countries are doing and what we have chosen not to do in this country. I always sort of get drawn to this analogy, right? Beijing to Shanghai is twice the distance that Boston to DC is. And yet, by train, right now, it takes half the time to transit that distance in China as it does in the United States. That's unacceptable, and that is a recipe for economic, social, and cultural failure if we don't address it. And here's the other thing that's so maddening, is that this is just a choice, right? There are other problems in the world in which we're still searching for the solutions, right? There's a lot of really complicated challenges in this country and in this world, whether it be conflict-ridden regions overseas, whether it be the opioid and mental health trauma that people live through in Connecticut, and we're still searching for the right levers. This is a problem we know how to fix, right? This isn't one in which we are still trying to divine the solution. We know how to make that transit faster. The governor knows exactly what he needs to do to shave off 20 minutes from New Haven into the city. We know how to unclog our highways. We've just chosen not to do it. And we've chosen not to do it for a variety of reasons, but primarily because we've just chosen not to fund it. And so for years we talked about coming together on the one thing it sort of felt like Washington could come together on, right? Maybe we're hopelessly stuck on health care and taxes and immigration, but we all talked the same talk on infrastructure, and yet it just didn't get done. Administration after administration, year after year. Well, Joe Biden got it done. Joe Biden got it done because he set a culture in which he was going to set aside politics and bring people together. And we didn't just get a little bump up in infrastructure done. We got the biggest one-time investment in American infrastructure in the history of the country. And it is really exciting. And I think you'll be excited to hear from the governor about what it has meant here in Connecticut. $2 billion just announced for rail projects and upgrades here in Connecticut, $107 million in Reyes grants going to local communities, many of them really low-income communities like the north end of Hartford, to improve streetscapes and help businesses sell to customers. $144 million for broadband equity, $52 million to improve our airports, $55 million to help clean up brownfields. Those are just the highlights. There's more to come. There are so many ribbon cuttings these days in Connecticut that Blumenthal can only make half of them. This is a big deal for our state, and it is frankly easier than most delegations have it to argue for those dollars to come to Connecticut. Take Reyes grants, for instance. Those are the grants that cities and counties apply for. When we saw the first round of grants come out, Connecticut got far more than our population alone would have merited, sizably more, just like we get far more in road funding than our sheer population would merit. But the reason for that is because there are meritorious projects, there are great applications, and there are really steady leaders all across this state who make really good applications to the federal government. And so to the extent that we have been able to bring back a lot of money, it has a lot to do with the governor and his team. It has a lot to do with Garrett and his team, and there's a lot to do with the mayors and the first selectmen who are represented here. So this can't be the end. And this is not a moment for us to rest on our laurels. One of my colleagues in the Senate, said once, when I ran a business, I thought about three things that I needed to invest in. I needed to invest in my physical plant, I needed to invest in my workers, and I needed to invest in my competitive edge. Right? Those are the three things I had to spend money on. And if you think about that from the federal government standpoint, our competitive edge is innovation and science. Our workforce is our people, that's education dollars, training dollars. And then our physical plant is infrastructure. But if you total up the amount of money that we spend on those four things, science, innovation, education, and infrastructure in the federal government, you know what percentage of federal expenditures it is? 4%. 4% of our federal spending is going to the three key areas that every business would tell you you need to dump the majority of your investment in if you want to succeed. So this is an important piece of legislation. It is transforming Connecticut, but it needs to be the beginning, not the end. We have so much to be proud of in this state. We should be proud of all the businesses that are coming here, that are setting up shop. We have a lot to crow about. We just have to make sure that if you get here, if you come here, you can get everywhere else. So to the whole team for making today possible, I want to say thanks. The last group I want to shout out before I step down and give it over to the governor are the people who make these projects happen, right? So it's the governor, it's our local leaders, it's the DOT, but it's the workers who are out there every day putting their lives on the line, often in dangerous projects that are the ones that we have a lot to be thankful for. And so to our building trades, to our labor unions, and to all the workers who make these projects happen and allow us to keep bringing these dollars back, we thank you as well. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
I did just want to give a quick shout out to the CT Build team. We are small but mighty. And to add a metric onto what the Senator was saying, we have outpaced 33 other states in terms of grants that have been brought back to Connecticut. And there are some states that are still organizing a team to try to go after these grants. And we're very excited at the hard work they did, not just today, but throughout the year. Okay, boss, you ready? Yeah. All right, let's hear from the best governor in the United States of America.
Hello, hello. First of all, Chris, I do get a kick out of the fact that the senator who is best known for walking across the state is also our biggest champion for transportation and high-speed rail. And thanks to you in particular, we are going to be able to take about an hour off that commute on Amtrak from Boston down to New York, and right here, stops in Connecticut, what a difference that makes. And thanks to you and Mark Boughton and our team here, we are punching way above our weight class in terms of what we're getting back. We have to be competitive. These are not all just formula grants. We're hitting the ground running. Mark Boughton has been putting this together, because you've got obviously transportation and broadband, resiliency, all these different pieces, grants coming in from different places, what's design ready to go, and Markers are infrastructure czar. And salaries are sort of mediocre in state government, but titles are inflated. So nice going, Mr. Czar. Look, Chris, rattled off some of the investments we're making, the dollar amounts that are there. I've gone to 169 towns, and we've talked about the bridge we're doing here and the station we're doing there and the housing. And this is all locally led, as Mark said. But more importantly, what I wanted to do with 2035 is just give you some sense of where all these 169 town puzzle pieces, as they come together over the next 10, 15 years, what the state's going to look like, what our North Star is, and see how we better coordinate that with our mayors here. You're going to be hearing from Shari and Mark and Roberto's here, and just it's led by you and how we can coordinate with you in terms of where we're trying to go. And first thing, as you probably note, is the moving vans have turned around. For 10, 20, 30 years, our population was pretty flat, and demographics is destiny, and we've gone from losing to winning. And you've probably seen over the last few years, we've added a lot of population. First, we thought it was just sort of COVID-related, and then 2 years ago, we added about 10,000. Now we did about 57,000. A lot of it coming from New York, a lot of it coming from Massachusetts. Sorry, guys. A lot of it coming from New Jersey. But we are part of this greater ecosystem, and we've got to do everything we can to make this a place where people want to be. I want to have the youngest, best workforce in the world, and that starts with making sure Connecticut's a place where young people want to be, and that we can provide housing for them. This slide is sort of interesting, find your vibe. Look at Hartford and Stanford. I'll tell you why we did this. We were competing for the Amazon headquarters, and after the Queens thing went down, and there was just sort of this stereotype of Connecticut that we were, nice suburban state with 1.2 kids in a house in the suburbs, and Amazon said that's not who was working for Amazon. We have the most diverse workforce in the world. We have a young workforce. We have a lot of single people here. They want vibrant downtowns and studio, one-bedroom apartments, places where they can get going. So this is part of what we're trying to tell that story with the people there about who we are. And we're trying to do everything we can to rebuild the state when it comes to housing. We added more new housing in the last few years than we have in the last 15, 20 years. More importantly, it was less in the single-family houses and more in multifamily houses. Multifamily in downtown areas, and not just in Danbury, New Haven, and Hartford, but also a lot of our mid-sized and even some of our smaller towns, because everybody wants a place where you can get the workforce you need, make sure there's a place where teachers and firemen and cops can live, maybe a place where grandparents can downsize a little bit, maybe a place where, like I said, that young worker can start their career. And you're going way ahead of me here, Milady. Go back to that other one, would you? This is, everybody talks about housing and multifamily housing, and down in part of the state where I am, this is sort of the image they portray. Say, oh, I don't want this in my neighborhood. And this was a housing project, affordable housing in Norwalk going back, 50 plus years. And the next slide is really what we're trying to do to help people reimagine where we're going there. This is that same place in Norwalk 50 years later. This is what, they call it affordable housing, but it's really a lot of mixed-use housing. Everybody can live there, and some of it's market rate, some of it's affordable, some of it's supportive, some of it's workforce housing. And it's just supposed to give people a better vision of what their town can be. And this is what we're seeing, not just in our cities, but in our towns as well. It's tried to be integrated with open space as much as we can, and that's what you see in that slide going forward. And what we're trying to do in terms of all the not in my backyard stuff is a lot of people's backyard, show the next slide, Mulaney, is old manufacturing and empty office buildings. And here in Hartford, for example, we seem to have acre upon acre of parking lots, right? That's, although it's not, maybe you need a little more right here, actually. But, and so what we're doing is trying to convert. This is where the housing is going to be. This is where 80+% of our housing is going to be in the 10, 15 biggest cities in this state. And this was an old commercial building, and commercial is not doing as well. It'll have a lot of empty space. What we're able to do to convert that into residential. And that's where I, with Sela and our housing team, and thanks to our legislators, we've doubled the amount of investment we're making in housing. Doubled it, because we got the population, they want to be here, they want to grow here, businesses want to expand here, and it only works if they have a place where their workers can afford to live. And that's what we're trying to do. And for you towns, you know, we're following your lead, like with, you know, Shari and Mark. You know, show us your plan, show us where you want the housing to go, and show us where you don't want it to go. Give us your best ideas, and Sela's going to accelerate to make sure that you're at the front of the line to make sure we can provide the support you need. This is neat. This is sort of a suburban town. One of the silver linings of that horrible COVID era was outdoor dining. And it really had people reimagining what our towns are looking like. They thought they were sort of sleepy on a Thursday afternoon. And then when people are eating outside, they see that they're lively. And these are the images that I take to businesses far and wide when they're saying, do I want to be in Connecticut? And I say, this is one of the reasons you want to be in Connecticut, because this is why your workers want to be here, young workers and educated workers. A lot of folks are doing our workforce as well. What are we doing next? I'll just migrate a little bit here. I think you have a sense of where we're going. Our cities were 30, 40% smaller 2 generations ago. We're infilling now, a lot of growth, a lot of development there. That's where the heart of our housing is going to be. We're also working closely with our suburban and rural towns. You're going to hear from somebody who focuses on Litchfield County, what they're doing to get a little bit of extra housing. And this picture is part of what we're trying to do with Katie Dykes and Deep. You know, we've got, thanks to feds, by the way, Chris, hundreds of thousands of new trees being planted in the state over the next, 3 or 4 years. Remember, this was the Elm City. I don't know if there are elms. Ask somebody from Deep. Are those elms? I don't know. But this is over the next, 10 years as these trees grow. This is what your municipal areas are going to look like. And it's amazing. You saw on that previous slide the tree-lined streets here. So it's a mix of urban and suburban in our downtown areas. And that's where we're going to be focused. And I want to say something about our smaller towns as well, because you're a big piece of what 2035 is for us. And this is a state that is, really, we have so many small towns. That's what people identify with. That's in many cases what people, love about the state. And what you're going to see in our small towns, look, frankly, a lot of them don't have water and sewer. It's not going to be, housing like it is in some of our more urban areas. But you're going to hear from folks, we're going to have high-speed broadband throughout our state. We already have about 98% connectivity. We're getting that to 100%. It's going to be the fastest you got. So you don't have to be in Brooklyn, New York. You can be in Brooklyn, Connecticut, and do everything that you want to right there. And how that accelerates. We're preserving open space. If I see a 2035 state of Connecticut with vibrant urban centers, we also see a green belt where we're protecting our open space, and that includes our farmers. We protected well over 1,000 acres of farmland this year alone, and we're just getting started. We have a goal, because we are one of the densest states in the country, and everything we do to give people an idea of what this state's going to be. This green grass you see here, these fields, these forests are going to stay forests forever, and what that means in terms of our farming as well. I mean, our farming is going to be, out in the field. It's also going to be urban farming. You're going to see a lot of aquaponics and growing right here in our urban areas, and get that better blend of what we're trying to do. And finally, what this rain garden is, anybody know what a rain garden is? I didn't until I went to Hamden. But part of what we're getting out of the federal infrastructure money is a lot of money for resiliency. And I always tell Deep, what's resiliency? What does that exactly mean? We have some incredibly severe flooding, these rain bombs. I used to think they're all just in Madison and Guilford, but now we see, I was just in in Glastonbury this summer, where along Connecticut Valley, River Valley, we were irrigating all the cornfields, and then 10 days later, the cornfields were underwater. They were 10 feet of water there. And what we've got to do, like we did in the 1950s, rebuild our bridges, rebuild our roads, and rebuild our dams. But some of it is simpler than that. This rain garden, it was in Hamden, and this is an area of a park that floods constantly. Now all that drains. Sometimes swamps are what they got. I kind of like rain gardens myself because that's what it is. You're going to hear from Felix in New London in a little bit. There they have a street called Water Street. And I thought it was called Water Street because it had a beautiful view of the water. But also because it flooded. It used to flood every 100 years. Now it floods every 10 years. They've created a park that has built-in drainage, and it all flows right out into the Thames. Felix is coming up later, maybe have a chance to talk about that a little bit. And finally, Chris mentioned our location should be one of our great strategic advantages. Here we are right between two of the most vibrant metropolises in New York and Boston. Great place to visit. Wouldn't want to live there, but I want to be able to get there to and from. I think the fact that we have a lot more remote work plays into our strengths, where with broadband you're able to work 3 or 4 days, and if you got to get into Stamford or New York or New London, then Boston, this is what we're doing. This is where we are in Stamford Rail. You're going to see the same thing at a Union Station down in New Haven. A lot of land we're just be able to purchase right near there. You're going to see hundreds of units of housing, transit-oriented development. I just want people to get a vision of what that means. And that means you don't have to have a car. You can walk. You can either walk to your office or you can walk to the train station, get there for that 1 or 2 days. Maybe you've got to be heading there. So Stamford Rail is a big piece of that. And like Chris said, you're going to be able to get from Stamford to New York in 15 minutes less time. You know what that also means? That means Bridgeport will be as close to New York City as Stamford is today. And think of what that means in terms of economic development and growth for people. So I think I'm going to leave it there, except to say I need each and every one of you as champions for the state, just like we try to be. And so where's Dan O'Keefe? He's our new economic development czar. And I need you to sense, those of you in planning and zoning, take the lead on behalf of your towns and cities. Show Selah and our team where you want to go, where your priorities are. Like I said, we got some resources there to help, not just the transportation side, but the housing side as well. And I think with a vision of where the state's going to be, those moving vans will be coming to the state for a long time to come. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, if we can have Jocelyn, Shari. Of course, the governor, you don't get to go. And Felix, come on up.
Where do you want me to sit?
First of all, thanks to our panel for being here today, and we appreciate that. We all know that we have the best governor in the United States of America. Sorry, Nellie, but I know, it is. I got to get it in, man. Okay, another year's coming up. But if the panel, aside from the governor, could just introduce themselves quickly, and then we got an opening question for you. Governor, feel free to chime in whenever you're ready as well. So we'll start on the end.
Sure. I'm Jocelyn Ayer. I'm the director of the Litchfield County Center for Housing Opportunity.
Good morning. Felix Reyes, Director of Economic Development for the City of New London.
Shari, Cantor, Mayor, West Hartford.
Terrific. Thank you for being here. So Governor Lamont has painted a very broad brush with a lot of great pictures, challenging us to meet this vision for 2035. And by the way, we'll be checking in every year from now on at this event to see how we're doing on this. But as local leaders in your community who do a variety of different things, tell us a little bit about what's your reaction to that. What did you think about that? And is that something that we can attain working closely as partners and being locally driven as the governor would like? Shari, you start?
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, that's, I think, what we've been doing for a while. And I'm a runner, and I say if you stand still, you lose the race, right? So we need to project on what our world needs, where young people want to be, where people all along the workforce need. And we're seeing in West Hartford, actually, an explosion of growth. And people are like, oh, too much growth. But growth happens in periods where you'll have a growth and then you do plateau and you grow. And so, but where is that growth needed? And developers understand that multifamily is a really important use right now, and around transit-oriented development is critical. So people can have affordable places to live and not have a car. And even if it's not affordable, it's luxury, they have a quality of life, that they're not stuck in traffic, or they're near a train station and they can get into major metropolitan areas and not worry about parking, which is an anxiety of mine, and I had this morning. So really critical things. So we've seen, again, a lot of interest in all levels of living. As the governor said, these developments that you just saw are everything. They're mixed use, they're mixed income, people, all different kinds of people living together, and that is a really wonderful, wonderful dynamic.
Hey, can I just ask, Shari, how do you handle the politics of this? I love West Hartford. I love the downtown. I love Blueback Square, where's Jonathan Harris. He had something to do with that. In my hometown, a little tougher. The lawn signs everywhere showing pictures of the Empire State Building being built on Greenwich Avenue and getting everybody all nervous. I love West Hartford. The average age is about 10 years younger than my hometown, but there's got to be some politics involved. I love something that you once told me. Somebody was complaining. They said, I like West Hartford just the way it is. And Shari said, I do too. And you're going to love it even more the way it will be.
Yeah, and so we do community outreach, and actually I'm meeting with a group this afternoon that is very opposed to development that we're going to be hearing very, very soon. And as you develop, you step in and you do one development and it works, and you step in and you do another development. We had a development, a multifamily, 243 Steel Road, and Jeff Sager, I think he's maybe in the house, and there was a lot of opposition. The hearings went till 2, 3 in the morning on opposition. Traffic. That development has proven to be such a quality development. People, all young people, retired people live there, and we can refer to that development and say, this is okay. This actually will raise your home value, will not decrease your home value. And those kinds of things are really important. We just actually did a conversion of a synagogue, Romanian Jews actually, that were escaping pogroms, and they were about 15 years no longer in business, but the board was still fairly active and wanted to leave a good legacy. And we put the pieces together. A housing authority ended up putting together a package for affordable, 80% affordable units on a walkable street about a mile from a pretty vibrant center, Bishop's Corner. And there was a lot of opposition. And it was largely came from condos next door, which I thought was fascinating because those condos didn't exist, 30 years ago. And so, they had a hard time envisioning this. This is not the way it was zoned. Well, that zoning didn't exist for those condos. And now the zoning exists for multifamily of ownership and rental. So it was, when people see the success of that project, and I have no doubt it will be, those other projects will be easier to approve.
What do you say, Felix?
Well, first thing I want to address is the biggest change we're seeing in actual New London, and I see Salem, Alexandra, and congratulations. The biggest thing, and Katie, is access to leadership. We've never really had that in the past, and I think I give a lot of credit to our mayor, Mike Passero, because when you have access to the administration, you actually can build a personal relationship. They can understand what truly are the needs of your community. It's very difficult to kind of create kind of blanket policies, and one rule fits every, or one foot fits every shoe. But our success has really come and opening up the eyes of people that have the control of the resources, and those resources are limited. I know the senator talked about all the money flowing in, but it's still limited, and there's constraints to that. So the city of New London has done everything it can to take advantage of those personal relationships, the personal relationship with the governor, inviting them into our city, getting to know our population, our community, our leaders, and really understand, getting them to understand where the needs are. And that has been great success because they're there. They want to help. When I tell you Salem wants to help the city of New London, there's not a bigger champion for the city of New London than the commissioner of DOH. That wasn't like that in the past. And she tells us, bring me projects, like Governor, you mentioned before. So it's up to the municipality to really prepare themselves, ready themselves, understand what's your inventory of real estate, what's the kind of the appetite of your local developers, what's the appetite of your community, and get projects in line ready for that level of investment. And that's been our strategy for the last 6 to 8 years, and it's paid tremendous dividends. We've seen tremendous growth and success in all aspects of industry and housing and different types of affordability in different sectors like that.
I'll blow your horn a little bit more. They have built more housing in New London in the last 3 years than they have in the last 23 years combined. A lot of that is related to jobs, enormous job growth there. Felix, I love what you're doing in the downtown. I mean, New London, the downtown area, every other building was vacant there for a while. Those are what's filling up. That's what's bringing it back to life. College is, got dorm space down there right now. Tell us a little bit about that park I had, and also say, is this too much too fast for the people of New London, or do they like the opportunity of what they see?
No, I think everybody understands there's a window of development, and you've got to try to get as much done within that window. And I think that the window has been there for a few years, and we've been taking incredible advantage of it. And it's everything. It's from bond projects for updating our parks. Joe Lasafarma here is a utility director. He's part of the infrastructure bill, $35 million for lead pipe replacement in the city of New London. Over 2,000 housing units, either built, under construction, or approved by planning and zoning. Our downtown is growing. We're investing millions of dollars. We have the Coast Guard Museum that is currently under construction. It's going to bring 300,000 people a year into our downtown. We have developers here today, Dash Davidson, you'll hear from a little bit later, investing tens of millions of dollars in adaptive reuse. And we're talking historic buildings that need the help of the tax credits and the different types of incentives that are provided to take these buildings that were not used and now use them for what the market needs, and that's housing. So now our downtown is not just a business district. Our downtown is a community. It's where people live and they're thriving. Our arts and cultures are thriving. We're the second cultural district in the state of Connecticut. That's driving in more investment in our downtown, and that's just the beginning. I always tell people, industry is what we have. We have electric boat. We have jobs. Jobs bring people. Need housing, and housing starts bringing those indirect benefits. Those small businesses, those mom and pop shops, those bakeries, those cupcake folks that we can't walk by without grabbing 2 or 3 of them. Those barbershops. That's the ingredients that we're seeing and the success that we're seeing in the city of New London. And it's a family, it's a unit, top on down. Everyone is involved in making sure those opportunities are there, both whether it's the private sector. We have a brand new community center. I see Keith Brothers is here. We've got the unions building us a $40 million community center. That community center is built on the future taxes that we're going to be collecting from the housing development. We're banking on ourselves to generate taxes so that we can give those developments, that the revenue that those developments are creating are being reinvested into our children, into our seniors, into our families. So those are the type of projects that we start to see from direct impacts of the investments that we're seeing from housing.
New London is one of the 6 towns that claims to be the fastest growing in the state of Connecticut. I like that little bit of competition. Shelton is right there, or Borough Alden, Danbury, Caroline Simmons and Stanford, so go for it. But I would assume, Jocelyn, that Litchfield County has a little bit of a difference there in terms of housing and development. You don't have necessarily the same water and sewer infrastructure, yet the need is great.
It definitely is, yeah. And I'll just, I guess, agree with Felix in terms of how important it's been, the partnership and accessibility of, just to embarrass the commissioner a little more, of Department of Housing, Sela, has been terrific in partnering with us, helping us work directly with towns, small towns in Litchfield County, to hear exactly what the housing needs are in the community and how we can help them address those needs. Some of the ways that we have dealt with some community pushback when projects come up in small towns is we've started really working, you mentioned in your remarks about the importance of both housing and conservation. So we're working directly with the conservation organizations in our region and in each individual municipality to really think proactively about where are the priority areas for conservation in each of our small towns, what are the priority areas for housing, and think together about how to address both those needs at once. And again, the accessibility of your administration has been terrific. We are able now to work directly with, in small towns, it's all about volunteers. And there are a lot of all-volunteer housing nonprofits in our small towns that are pushing to create the housing opportunities that our businesses need. Our grocery stores, our hospitals, all of the businesses that we all rely on. It's these all-volunteer organizations in the small towns that are doing it. So with help from the Department of Housing, we've been able to provide technical assistance for those groups to work in their own communities, pursue their own projects, and again, work directly with the other stakeholders in their communities, like the conservation organizations, the hospitals, the local grocery stores, to advocate for the housing that their workforce needs to continue to, have retain and attract workers to those small town businesses.
Yeah, my understanding is you're helping a lot of these Litchfield County towns create their own plan about where they want to be. I love the fact that housing is the key component of it, but also the fact you're working with the conservation as well, so people have a greater idea of what the town of Litchfield could look like in 2035.
Yeah, and again, all the small towns, we were able through technical assistance grants to work with each municipality on creating an affordable housing plan. As you all are probably very well aware, we all have to have one, and we all have to think about how we can create these opportunities in our communities. So we were able to do that, and I was thinking about this, when you're working with especially a small town, on where can we put housing, they always kind of shrug. I don't know, that it's like that book, Soup from a Stone. How do you get soup from a stone? Does anybody know that? No. Anyway, so they never kind of know where to put it, but I think once we were really looking at it, we found a lot of opportunities for where housing could go. Again, underutilized parking lots, like in Salisbury, Connecticut. We were looking at our existing affordable housing developments, and is there space to put some more really attractive housing there? We were doing that in Litchfield and Morris and Salisbury and Kent. Looking at vacant school buildings. Unfortunately, we do have some vacant school buildings, especially in the smaller towns that are losing school-age population, but we can turn those into community assets and have more housing that's dedicated to remaining affordable over time in those underutilized spaces.
Are shopping centers an underutilized opportunity?
Yeah, in a lot of my small towns, we don't even have shopping centers, but in some of the towns, we definitely have underutilized office space and parking lots, a lot of parking lots. Yeah.
Yeah, we're long on parking lots.
Yeah.
What else, Mark? Any other last thoughts before we migrate over? Hey, before I go, I'd just like to give a shout out. Sitting next to Dan is Alexandra Daum, whom many of you know is our head of economic community development. Comes from a developer background, has been working with us at DECD for close to 4 years, and she'll be heading on at the end of this year and showing Yale University how to handle their real estate, including a lot of affordable housing.
We have just a couple of minutes for questions, Governor. Do we have
Sure, go.
any questions out in the audience? This is your time. Ask the boss anything you want, really. But I mean, and also, Shari, we've got some really fantastic professional leaders in our community here. If you have any thoughts or ideas, we do have folks with microphones. We have one back there. Yep, we'll be right. We got a mic coming up. There you go.
Out of the purview, but how about our ocean and the Long Island Sound? What is something that we're doing along that area for economic growth or improvements of our beaches, et cetera? Infrastructure, waste, products, stuff
Well,
like
I'll
that.
start with that. Two things. I grew up on Long Island Sound. I was 7, and not even I liked swimming in it. It was that dirty back then. I was 7. I didn't know what dirty was. So we are making extraordinary progress on environment as well as what you did on air under Richard Nixon, of all people. What we're trying to do right now along our waterfront in particular is a lot of resilience. What we're doing, protect those shorefront areas, make sure that increasing encroachment. Hurricane Sandy was a real wake-up call for us. We had a fair number of our electric substations that were really at risk. We were 3 inches away from going dark. So those are some of the priorities that we're working on when it comes to resilience, making sure they're out of risk, and making sure we're protecting our shorefront so people know what it'll look like in a 30-35.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. One more.
One more.
One more. Sorry.
Sorry, one quick one. Yeah, we see that a lot of our malls are closing and a lot of the private developers are shutting those down, and towns and cities are having a hard time getting some of those developers out. And also, for some of the smaller towns, like for example in the town of Bloomfield, we have a really vibrant town center, but we have a tenant that doesn't use that as a portfolio as a tax write-off with little or no development. How can we get support from larger entities in the state to help get rid of those, large blighted properties like the malls and these town centers that are blighted?
Any of you have any experience there?
Well, I mean, I think I can talk on, I think every city has nuisance properties. I think whether it's a mall or a small historic building that's falling apart, I think one of the things that from the city of New London, number one, locally, your blight ordinances have to have some teeth. And I think that's what's been difficult and trying to get developers motivated to do something and getting them to understand the effects that they have, that building has, not only on the revenue that city can't collect in taxes, but the effect it's having on the surrounding properties as well. So I know from the city of New London, we're doing a comprehensive analysis and kind of a structural kind of survey of all of our nuisance properties in the actual city. And we're going to be extremely aggressive over the next 4 years to go after every single one of them. One of the things that passed was the receivership. Now we increased the population for that. So the city of New London will be utilizing new laws that are kind of in our back pocket. I think Litchfield might have been one of the first to utilize those and go through court systems. But I think it's up to the municipality to start. You got to build a relationship with the owner. If they're not doing anything, and start to use different strategies to go after, because the effects are incredible. I mean, you've got the social justice issues, you've got revenue issues, you've got mill rates that will skyrocket if those developments don't happen. And so there's a lot to lose from having those nuisance properties. My suggestion, advice for municipalities, directors of development, do not sit back and hope and wait that something's going to happen. You have to be the aggressor. And I'm hoping that the city of New London has, sets up some good precedent study to that, because we're going after every single one of them.
I would just like to add, that's great, Felix. And I would like to add that there's incentives. So we had an inn that was really tired, and there were some. It was in a prime piece of like Bloomfield in the center, and we established a $6 million ARPA fund for affordable housing, and we had a developer that came and actually applied for that. It's either grant or loan, and applied for that. And I want to thank the Commissioner, Department of Housing, who's such a partner in that. But again, strategically putting kind of our money where our mouth is too, allocating that money and making sure it is something that can be an adaptive reuse that we want, and it really helped.
I haven't vetted this idea yet, so I get all my team nervous. But you
Sorry,
do
Johnny.
go through an assessment every period of time, and I think those blighted properties should be assessed at their market potential, not at their current use. And I think that would give developers to do the right thing to make sure that property gets its best opportunity. Hey, with that, everybody, thanks for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for believing in Connecticut and what we are going to look like in 2035. And thanks to our amazing panel.